Re-
Oh, sorry. And I mix things up occasionally too. I attribute all this to my advanced age. So Brian is now going to do the next appropriate step.
I've been there too. I've been called for forgetting things or putting them out of order. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Chico. I'm the Reverend Brian Plude, the minister of this church. Welcome. Thank you for joining us in person or online. If you are new to us and would like to get connected, you can get help with that. Ask any one of the people that has stood up and talked here this morning. And if they can't help you, they can point you to somebody who can, or you can do it. Well, you can't do it online at the moment. Hopefully, sometime in the next week, you will be able to do that online again. It is our custom to acknowledge and be mindful that the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Chico stands on lands that were originally occupied by the first people of this area, the Machupta. We recognize their distinctive spiritual relationship with this land, the flora, the fauna, and the waters that run near campus. We are grateful. Our call to worship this morning by the Reverend Margaret Weiss. Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the part that is beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, the new, the possibility. Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burden, lift up your hope for something new to happen. Come into this place with fellow travelers on the journey, some faces new and others familiar, and all welcoming you here now to this moment. Come, let us worship together. And now we will light the chalice. These words by the Reverend Samuel Trumbore. O light of life, be kindled again in our hearts as we meet together this morning to celebrate the joy of human community, seeking a wholeness that extends beyond ourselves. Now it's time to sing again.
Can we invite you to turn on the mic, Jeff? And sing with us, People Look East. It's number 226 in your gray hymnals, and the words are here. And Pam's on drum. That's exciting.
Rise in body or in spirit, please.
And we're going to do Lulu. Not this one.
People look east, the time is near, of the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able, trim the hearth, set the table. People look east and sing today of the
Our story for all ages this morning has a long history in various traditions, but this version was written most recently by Erica Barron. A climate change parable. The story is told that in the beginning there were two gods who were brothers. And by the way, the name of this is the Oak King and the Holly King. Like many brothers, they struggled with each other for ascendance and power. One brother was the king of the forces of life, light, and warmth. He wore a crown made of green oak branches and brought with him all growth and vitality, fertility, and abundance. He was called the Oak King. His brother was the king of the forces of death, cold, and darkness. He wore a crown made of the prickly holly branches and brought with him all withering and decay, stillness and hibernation. He was the Holly King. The brothers were identical in strength, and so year after year, the same pattern was repeated. Each year, the Oak King would grow strong and mighty, and during his time of dominance, the light would gradually increase, bringing with it warmth and abundance. But each year, at the height of his power, he would be thrown down by the Holly King. In the wake of the Holly King's victory, the light would gradually wane, and as it did, cold would come and the land would go dormant. But at the height of the Holly King's power, he would be challenged again by the Oak King and would fall. And the cycle would repeat again and again and again. Alone, the brothers were equals, but soon there came a race of beings known as people. The people watched this cycle, and pretty soon they began to take sides. The people loved light and warmth, and they feared darkness and cold. And so each year, they would celebrate the victory of the Oak King. When the two struggled with each other, the people would lend the strength of their voices and their bodies, their minds, and their spirits to the Oak King. But the Holly King was without their support. And so time went by. The people's adoration of warmth and light only grew, and so they began to invent ever new ways to find light in the darkness and warmth in the cold. And finally, if they wished it, they could spend all of their time in the light they had created, and they could be warm all year long. But their efforts to stay always in the light and the warmth were not without consequence. Generations passed and generations again, and the people did not at first notice the shifts in balance. But finally, they could ignore it no longer. The people saw that darkness was disappearing from the land, driven out by the millions of lights people had created. Animals, birds, plants, even people began to suffer the effects of light unbalanced by darkness. But it was not just darkness that was disappearing. Cold began to flee too. The whole world began to get warmer. Summers began sooner and lasted longer. Ice that had been frozen far longer than the longest memory of the oldest person in the land began to melt. Migrating birds and animals were confused about when to begin migration. Plants found themselves rooted in climates that no longer supplied their needs. The air was changing, and the winds that had brought rain and taken it away again began to flow in unexpected directions, causing drought here and flood there. The people began to see that their support of warmth and light over cold and darkness had altered the balance of the world. They began slowly, one at a time, to realize that the Holly King was dying. And for the first time, this thought filled them with fear. What would happen if the balance continued to be destroyed? Could they even survive in a world without the Holly King? And in the world of the gods, the Oak King realized it too. And though they had been competitors all these many centuries, he also realized that he loved his brother deeply and could not live without him. The longest night came, and the Oak King and the Holly King met again, but this time the Oak King had no heart for the fight. He lay down his sword and spear. He came open-handed to his brother, who was struggling just to stay on his feet. The Oak King wrapped the Holly King in a tight embrace, and he promised to set aside his jealousies and to help his brother heal. On the night when he usually claimed descendants, the Oak King realized that the world was already too warm and too light, and so he laid the great oak crown on the head of his brother, took his brother's hand, and each supporting the other, they went out into the world to see what could be done to restore balance.
Now it really is my turn. Sharing the significant joys and sorrows of our lives helps us build community and to preserve and to heal. May we now share our joys and sorrows, marking each one by releasing a stone into the water. I'm going to be stepping down there in just a moment, and taking care not to speak for or of another unless we have permission. You can join me here, or I can bring the mic to you.
I'm Margaret. My joy is in the long life that my mother had. My sorrow is in that this week marks the first year after she died. And another big joy, though, is that I continue to have tremendous support and love from all of you, from my family and friends.
I'm David still, and my wife Susan was finally scheduled for her knee transplant on February 1st, which is the reason she's been in the wheelchair for so long. And we got a call early this week saying there was a cancellation on December 28th. Did we want the date? So, in 10 days from now, she's going to be at Enloe having a knee replaced. And let me tell you, that's a great joy for both of us.
Congratulations, first of all. Is it on? It is. Okay. Hi, I'm Connor. Most of you know that. It's nice to meet those of you who are new. I have two joys this morning. The first one being that when I was in Sacramento yesterday with some family members, I got to go to a place that does dim sum for the first time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a wonderful experience, and I will definitely do it again. And the second one is that I am at long last done with my first semester of college. I finished up finals this week, and I am happy that I can now get a mental break for 5.5 weeks now before going back to college again. So.
My joy is that my grandson finally tried dim sum.
I had the joy last night of singing Handel's Messiah, part of it, only about an hour's worth, up at New Clairvaux Abbey. And we sing again this afternoon at 2 at Bidwell Presbyterian. It is a sorrow that I will be, for the first year, I think, since I've been here, I will be unable to join the caroling group.
I'm Megan. I'm just the joy of sport. I got up at 7 o'clock this morning to watch the World Cup final, and I know the result, but I'm not going to say anything, and because I know some people haven't watched it yet. But you know, someone said last night that 1 billion people have watched the World Cup. That's 1 out of 9 people on this earth. If there's nothing that could bring us together more than sport, I don't know what it is. It's amazing.
So thank you all. We go on now. Be mindful of the joys that have been expressed and any joys or concerns or sorrows that remain in people's hearts unspoken.
We enter into a time of prayer and meditation. I invite you to relax into the space you are occupying. Make yourself comfortable and breathe with me. I invite you to breathe with me. In and out. In and out. In and out. In some language, maybe it's Greek, maybe it's in some other one, breath and spirit are the same word. We hold in our hearts the joys and sorrows we have heard here this morning, a family of illness, of upcoming surgery, of how sports can unite. I invite you now to speak into this space or on chat the names of persons not yet mentioned whom you hold with tenderness. And we know that not all that is on our hearts was spoken aloud. These silent reflections we also hold with tenderness. We hold in our hearts the people of Ukraine and of Russia and those in conflict and war throughout the world. We hold refugees with special tenderness. Their paths are uncertain, their futures unknown. We hold also with tenderness the people and the children of Somalia, people who are on the brink of climate-induced famine, a famine made worse by war. May the world pay attention and bring relief. May we work for peace and to change the prevailing climate paradigm. This prayer by John Philip Newell. In the temple of our inner being, in the temple of our body, in the temple of earth, sea, and sky, in the great temple of the universe, we look for the light that was in the beginning, the mighty fire that blazes still from the heart of life, glowing in the whiteness of the moon, glistening in the night stars, hidden in the black earth, concealed in the unknown depths of our soul. In the darkness of the night, in the shadows of our being, great mystery, let us glimpse the eternal in both the light and shadows of our being. let us glimpse the glow of the eternal. Amen, and blessed be.
Pam and I offer this to you as a meditation. The words are on the screen for the translation, but we invite you to sit and listen. De noche, que para encontrar la fuente, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra. By night we hasten in darkness to search for living water. Only our thirst leads us onward. Only our thirst leads us onward.
This morning, around 8:30, about 45 minutes before I needed to leave to come here, I was looking over my order of service notes, and I had two sets, or I had a set of two. Thank you. And on one of them, it said no reflection this morning, and on the other one, it said reflection, but there was no indication who was supposed to be giving it, me or Brian. So on the off chance that it was me and that there was going to be one, I sat in my study and I jotted a few things down. And so that's what I wanted to just briefly share with you. This week brings us to the December, or in our hemisphere, winter solstice, December 21st, which is both the shortest day and represents the longest night of the year. During this time, we're warned by the certain knowledge that starting on December 22nd, just coming up, which this year is this coming Thursday, each day we welcome a few minutes of additional light until day length peaks in the summer solstice in June. Solstices, which oversimplified, reflect the relative angles of our planet and the sun at different times of year, have of course been occurring for as long as our planet has existed, countless eons. For roughly 450 million years, the coming of light brings the renewal of spring in the plant kingdom, which is something, I hope you can still hear me. I'm going to be using a visual aid in a moment.
For the people on Zoom.
And to the people on Zoom, I'm just coming down here for a moment to get my visual aid that I will be using in just a minute. For much of my science writing career, I've written about plants, and including plant evolution over time. So I'm going to back up, start again. For roughly 450 million years, the coming of light brings the renewal of spring in the plant kingdom, which to me, despite having a scientific, bent of thinking, it always seems a bit miraculous. I suspect I'm not the only one who feels that way. Now, to the ancients, the cyclical waxing and waning of day length must have been both incredibly momentous and miraculous, because until humans began to figure out seasonal relationships between the earth and its sun, they had no real scientific understanding of how that all worked. They simply knew they depended on the coming of spring and light to set in motion the renewal of plant life on which they depended for food and shelter, and in some cases clothing as well. Now, this humongous cone from a coulter pine, they grow in the southern Sierras, and this is actually a kind of a baby. They can be up to 10 pounds and really huge. It's one of my prized possessions because to me it symbolizes the immense journey of life on our planet through solstice after solstice after solstice after solstice. And I find it to be a blessing to witness the seasonal miracles that this old cone represents, the seasonal miracles of light and life.
If you haven't already figured it out, today's service is about solstice. What was your first clue? Our readings this morning, we have 3 of them. First is by Maria Popova. Darkness, like silence, like solitude, belongs to that class of blessings increasingly endangered in modern life, yet vitally necessary to the human spirit. Our next is by Parker Palmer. But I wonder, are we so eager to get to the light that we fail to dwell in the darkness long enough to learn what it has to teach us? As we all know, there are a lot of longest nights in life, and some of them seem impossibly long. As one who has spent months in the dark night of depression, I know how important it has been to let darkness become my teacher. End quote. Our final reading this morning is by Chloe Rain. In Latin, solstice is made of 2 words, sol, meaning the sun, and sistere, meaning to make a stand. Winter solstice is one of the most powerful points of the year as the axis of the earth pauses, shifts, and moves in the opposite direction. For 3 days around the solstice points, we experience the power of the standstill point and the shift of direction. The sun standing still is a powerful metaphor for the energy available to us at the winter solstice to change the direction of our lives with intention and build on this energy as we enter into the new year. Welcoming the darkness, letting go. Christmas used to fall on the solstice. Yes, it's true. You may know that different calendars have been used throughout history. Under the Julian calendar, established by who else? Emperor Julius Caesar in the year 46 BC, the solstice fell on December 25th. The Julian calendar was remarkably accurate, but over the centuries it drifted until the seasonal changes no longer corresponded with the calendar. In 1582, Pope Gregory VIII introduced the Gregorian calendar. No egos here in these naming of calendars. This is the calendar in use today in most of the westernized world and in much of Christianity. Orthodox Christianity still uses the Julian calendar, which has been revised to be more accurate. In the Gregorian system, Christmas was desynchronized with solstice. So why would the birth of Christ be celebrated on the solstice as it was for so many years? Well, among other names, Prince of Peace, Messiah, Lord, Son of Man, Jesus was called the light of the world. How fitting that his birthday would be celebrated at the turning of the solar year when the days begin to get longer. After Jesus was crucified, Christianity spread rapidly through Europe, North Africa, and as far east as China. As it spread, it adopted and co-opted local religious practices. In Northern Europe, and in many places, this included a celebration of the solstice with its various pagan elements. We see this adoption and co-option of prior religious practices in every culture into which Christianity has made inroads. When I was in seminary, I read Christian source documents from China. As I recall, they were from about 300 years after the birth of Christ. And those documents, those original documents, Chinese, for Christianity, Christian documents, sounded a lot Buddhist. Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead celebration in Mexican culture, borrows heavily from indigenous practices prior to Christianity, yet the practitioners are largely Catholic. Our altar today carries some of the symbolism of the pagan, many of which have been incorporated into our Western celebration of Christmas. For the symbology of these plants, I am indebted to Selena Fox and her website, circlesanctuary.org. Here's what you'll see on our altar. Evergreens symbolize the continuity of life, protection, and prosperity. Holly represents the old solar year, the waning of the sun, protection, and good luck. We don't have a Yule log on our altar, but we do have acorns. Oak represents the new solar year, the waxing sun, endurance, strength, and triumph, protection, and good luck. Yule, by the way, comes from the Norse word Y-U-L, Yule, meaning wheel, an apt metaphor for the turning of the seasons. Mistletoe symbolizes peace, prosperity, healing, wellness, fertility, rest, and protection. Fertility may be the original reason that people kissed under mistletoe, although I doubt that's often the reason now. Finally, ivy represents fidelity, protection, healing, marriage, victory, honor, and good luck. You'll have noticed some overlap in the meanings of these symbolic plants, particularly protection, which is found for all of our altar offerings. Now, we don't have any frankincense and myrrh on our altar, but there was pagan symbology associated with these gifts of the wise men in the New Testament story of Luke. I'm sure you will recognize characteristics attributed to Jesus in the symbology of these two aromatic resins. Frankincense symbolized the sun, purification, consecration, protection, and spiritual illumination. Myrrh represented healing, death and afterlife, purification, and inner peace. This morning, we celebrate the turning of the world, the end of increasing darkness and move toward light. We do this, we'll do it, with a ritual of two parts. This morning, we let go to make space for the new. On New Year's Day, a Sunday, Meg Brady and Wayne Shems have graciously agreed to lead a discussion on setting intentions for the new year. This is in lieu of a regular service, worship service on that day. Reverend Darcy Lane writes, "Perhaps we keep so busy in these dark days because we know that emptying is not always comfortable. Sometimes when we are quiet and still, our hearts fill up with concerns and feelings we have been too busy to feel. But if we can give ourselves some space to just be quiet and still, those worries and memories and feelings that rise to the surface of our attention often drift away, one by one, leaving us with more inner spaciousness if we meet them with a compassionate awareness, without grasping or pushing. The wisdom of the ages tells us that there is value in our journey into the emptiness, into darkness, because it empties us for the returning light." End quote. We will take time in a few moments to reflect, to be still, to see what arises. And we still have a few more days until the solstice, when more may arise if we create space. As things arise, write them down on the note card that should be somewhere near you, and there should be more than enough to go around, so if there aren't enough in your particular row, find a note card in another row. At the conclusion of today's service, we will exit here and go outside to the fire pit, which is over in that vicinity. And one by one, we will take those cards of things we want to let go of, and drop them into the fire, making space for the new. As we heard from Chloe Rain in our reading, the sun standing still is a powerful metaphor for the energy available to us at the winter solstice to change the direction of our lives with intention and build on this energy as we enter into the new year. Blessed be, may it be so. Let us reflect in silence. I will ring the chime to wrap things up. We will have about 5 minutes of silent reflection to allow feelings and thoughts to arise.
the fire outside in the fire pit's being kindled right now. And so we'll have our offering. The taking of an offering is an opportunity to acknowledge and help fulfill our collective responsibility to work for the common good. This quarter, 25% of our cash plate offerings is being donated to the North State Shelter Team, an organization, as many of you know, is committed to efforts to shelter the unhoused while maintaining dignity for all. Among other services, the shelter team provides showers every Friday in Chico for unhoused people who may not have access to this sort of personal hygiene assistance in any other way.
Deep in the darkest winter night, here with my candle burning, cozy and warm inside the light, now that the year is turning. What does the future hold in store? Where has our journey brought us? How can we learn from what's gone before? What has experience taught us? We are the future. We can reach for the stars. Sing this at home in our own backyard. We want to be who we are. Friendship will light the darkest hours. True love will hold the vision. Peace and goodwill on earth is ours. Let it be our decision. La 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 la
Heart of creation, lover of shadow and light, sing us the song of a billion stars, silently all through the night.
Deep in the darkest winter night, here with my candle burning,
Cozy and warm inside the light, now that the year is turning. Feel how the year is turning. La 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 la.
Thank you for your generosity. It will be a big help for the NSST in fulfilling their mission.
We invite you to rise and body your spirit and sing with us number 224, Let Christmas Come. I think this is probably new to all of you because it was new to us, so we're going to hum the melody for you first. Please rise and body your spirit.
Let Christmas come, its story told. When days are short and winds are cold, let Christmas come, its lovely song. When evening soon and night is long, let Christmas come, its gray star glow on quiet city parks of snow. Let Christmas come, its table clean, the born again, the truth of dreams.
After we extinguish this chalice, we will all move relatively quickly outside and assemble around the fire pit circle, and then we can place those things we want to be rid of into the flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Amen.